Today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. I'll tell you a lot more about that at the end of this video. In generations past, we've known a lot about the systems we're going to get our hands on in the holiday season well before now. If you look at the last generation, well, actually that gen, we knew a lot about the PS4 come February and March. And now obviously we're rolling past those dates and we still know very little about what the PS5 actually is in terms of games, price, release date, really anything of that matter. Now the Xbox Series X, we've known about its existence for a lot longer, for years actually. Microsoft has been teasing the Series X, but we also know quite a bit about its tech specs now, what it's going to be. We know a little tiny bit about the games that might be coming to it, its launch window, but things like price are still up for speculation as well. Xbox has driven the hype train for long enough for us to get a good understanding of what they're trying to do with the system. But one thing that's really interesting about the Xbox One X is we really don't understand its graphical capabilities, and part of that is because we don't really understand its GPU, which is the chip, or think in your PC, the card, that is responsible for the graphical output of modern games. And console GPUs are often a little bit different. In my PC right now, one has a Titan RTX in it and the other has a 2080 Ti. You're not going to see either of those in the next Xbox. But something really strange happened recently. Strange enough to talk about. A hacker has apparently stolen the Xbox Series X source code for its graphics card and is now holding it ransom like it was kidnapped. That is not a joke, you heard that right. A hacker has stolen information pertaining to, or secrets pertaining to, the Xbox Series X graphics chip and is now holding it hostage, holding it ransom for quite a bit of money. So let's kind of talk about how this story unraveled and actually what it means for the Xbox Series X and you playing it. There's recently a blog post on the AMD website where AMD said, quote, "We were contacted by someone who claimed to have test files related to a subset of our current and future graphics products." And this is what happened. Apparently a hacker hacked into a computer that included the source code for AMD's Big Navi and Ardent GPUs. This is kind of important because one of those two is directly correlated to the Xbox Series X, and that would be the Ardent GPU, which is what's rumored to be stuffed inside the Xbox Series X, that 12 teraflop GPU. Yeah, that's rumored to be Ardent architecture. And to prove this, the hacker, in typical Robin Hood-esque look at me style, posted segments of the code on GitHub. That way he could prove that no, he really did have this. You know, gotta have a bit of pride in there. Also, how are you gonna prove that you've got what you say you got for $100 million? That's right. The person that stole this information is asking for $100 million for the code. If he does not get this $100 million, he will either first try to sell this information to a competitor, or really anyone that will buy it, and if he cannot find a buyer, which, by the way, let me really stop for a second and talk to you about how stealing things works. No tech company on earth is going to buy this code or information. What they're going to do is contact the FBI and have him arrested, or at the very least contact them so they can help translocate him. Because if they're caught buying the stolen data, knowing it's stolen data, now they're in legal trouble. And it won't be hard to find them, by the way. Worse yet, once the hacker has the money, let's say someone does buy it, what's to stop him from telling the authorities who has it or posting it online? Are you really gonna trust the guy that stole something and held it ransom for $100 million? So once he can't sell it, the plan is to dump all the data online for everybody to see. Which, by the way, is a terrible threat. If I'm a potential buyer of this data and you're telling me that if I don't buy this, you're gonna post it online for everybody to have, well, I'll just wait. Sure, my competitors will have it, but I don't gotta pay for it. Now, some people have thought, well, maybe this isn't real. Maybe the information he stole wasn't legitimate. Maybe this is just some guy wanting 15 minutes of fame. Well, AMD disagrees with that. In fact, they issued a copyright DMCA takedown notice on the website where the data was first posted, the code was first posted, or the partial bit of code. Now, a company is not going to go through the lengths to legitimize something like this unless, of course, you know, it's legitimate. And AMD has come out and said it is not core to the competitiveness or security of our graphics products because, you know, if they say anything else, this guy will realize he has something really special and dump it. But maybe if they kind of play it down a little bit, they'll get him to give it up. Not only do I think this story is funny, I think this whole weird Persona 5 Phantom Thief stealing data thing is humorous, but it's actually kind of interesting and telling for what kind of hype cycle we're actually in for currently. And this is one of just 2 stories I want to talk about today. So let me get to the second, because it's directly correlated and I think plays into what I really want to say here. PlayStation recently came out, gave a small interview, and said that they want the PlayStation 5's game library to be like Netflix. It will be as easy to use as Netflix in terms of getting in and out of games. Obviously, when you use Netflix, you click a button, you press a show, you start it immediately. That's essentially what they're implying, that it's going to be that quick, that easy. You're going to click a button, you're going to be in, you're going to be playing seconds later. And this, of course, runs back into their whole SSD, future architecture, no load times thing that they're pushing for the PS5. They believe the PS5 has the architecture and the hardware to essentially eliminate load times. Not literally, but to the point where it's having little to no impact on your play experience. They've said things like you don't have to wait for update installs, and that the load times will be so short it'll basically be like you're using a streaming service. And I find this story really interesting. I find Sony talking about this really interesting because they're not getting a lot of media hype. They're not getting a lot of conversation every time they come out and do these things, especially after their GDC kind of reveal conference, whatever you want to refer to that as. People just aren't talking about the PS5, but these things are really interesting. The problem is they don't seem to have learned something that every other game company learned a long time ago. If you want people to care about your hardware, frame it in the context of games. That's what people want to see. Remember, the big complaint in 2013 about the way that Microsoft showed off the Xbox One was that they weren't focused on games. They were focused on all of these other things that people, quite frankly, on the surface don't care about. Look, load times and all this, it'll be like the Netflix of games. Sounds wonderful, but the reality is people are not going to appreciate that until they have the system in their hands. And I have news for you. What's not selling them on this system is telling them it's gonna be like the Netflix of games, because that is something that gamers have legitimately said out loud they don't want. Now, this is not what they meant, but the problem is the conversation around streaming games and all the other things has been so crazy that when you frame things in that way, that's all people think about, even if it's not what you mean, which it isn't. Here they're talking about load times and getting in and out of games in general, not streaming them. The point is, Sony is framing this the wrong way. Tell us about a game, just one game, 2 games, whatever it is. Show us something and frame it that way. Tell us about the load times in a brand new Spider-Man sequel. Tell us about the load times in the PS5's version of The Last of Us 2. It doesn't matter what it is. And this circles back around to the Xbox Series X and the PS5, and it's something I talked about recently, but something that I think is getting more and more interesting. Sony and Microsoft are both very, very open right now about talking about these systems, but one feels a lot more transparent than the other, and that's Microsoft. Microsoft wants to talk about games. They haven't announced a ton, but they're framing it the right way. Sony is playing this weird, coy, I'm gonna have these little media outlets trickle out information, trickle out interviews, I'm gonna give quote here, quote here, quote here, little game that's not making much sense, because quite frankly, now would be the time to say something. Now, while everybody's at home, while the world is looking for something, especially gamers are looking for something to be hopeful about, to be excited about. Now when there aren't a lot of games dropping because everything got delayed out of spring. Now would be the time to vocalize all of the things you want to say, to get the hype train rolling. Let it roll now. Let everybody be home talking about this on blogs and forums and sharing it on Twitter. Give everybody a chance to digest it in the environment where everyone in this country is in their house. It's a dream for a marketing team. How can we get this news to everybody simultaneously without having to worry about when they can consume it? Oh wait, they can all consume it now. Both Sony and Microsoft have an opportunity here to create a small silver lining for gamers, to give people something to be happy about, to talk about. And to be quite frank, it wouldn't be the worst marketing move. What's going on is horrible. It's not great. And right now it's not looking up. It's not looking better. People want to feel happy. People want to feel excited. And Sony's unwillingness to show anything isn't helping them in the long term anyways. So while people hack Xbox's computers or AMD's servers, AMD's computers to try to get information about the Xbox Series X architecture and their GPUs, while people sit here and beg Sony for information, maybe it's better if you guys just kind of say something more, show something more. You obviously have it. Maybe now is the time. In this social media stage, gaming companies, publishers, developers are starting to develop this tendency to say as little as possible for as long as possible in hopes that they'll be able to show as little as possible, to have to answer as few questions as possible before something launches. You saw it recently with Fallout 76. Now, this is not really a comparable situation, but the point is, the longer they wait to show something, the closer they get to release, the less accountability they're going to have, the less they have to say. And that's not what consumers need or want. But now, I want to know what you guys think. A, what do you think about this weird Robin Hood dumping the information for the people or selling it for ransom hacker on the Xbox AMD side? And then what do you think about the way these two consoles have been shown off? Do you think they're doing the right thing? What game do you want to see shown from Sony? If they only show one, what do you want it to be? Let me know the answers to any of those questions down in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation. As always, if you enjoyed this video, press that like button down below. If you haven't yet done so, also press subscribe. That way you won't miss anything I put out. And also, the subscribe button is a little bell. You can hit that just to be notified when I actually upload. So subscribe in the little bell. Today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN, a product I have a lot of experience with and absolutely love. A VPN is a service that encrypts the data you're sending across the internet. Not only that, but it masks your IP, essentially protecting you from things like data selling, hackers, password crackers, but most importantly, it gives you privacy while you're browsing the web. ExpressVPN is routing you through thousands of servers, hiding your real IP address, allowing you to browse anonymously. As I've experienced myself, it has the fastest speeds, much faster than some of the other VPN providers I've used, 24/7 customer support, it's super easy to use, and they're also the #1 rated VPN by TechRadar, CNET, The Verge, and a lot of other outlets. I've used it for months now. I love it. Find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link in the description box below, expressvpn.com/cleanprincegaming. This is a product that can protect you guys, and also clicking down below helps me out. What you're seeing right now are 2 more of my recent videos. You can click on those to stay here. And until next time, guys, I'm out.